You are not resting. You don't rest. You read too much. Any small thing. Yeah, I must read. I must read. I must read. And nothing is entering your head. Hey guys, so there are so many reasons why students fail, but today I'm going to be touching on only five. Number one reason is because most students do everything alone. You don't have information about the things that are going on just because you're too shy to reach out to some people. Are not even shy, they're just like, I can do everything on my own. Well, you can't, because man was not created to even live alone. The Bible says that it is not good for man to be alone. It is not good, even in your academic. It is not good. Work with friends who will help you to get better. Work with people. Stop reading alone. Stop doing your assignments alone. Stop doing so many things alone. The only place where you cannot do anything alone, where you're allowed to do your work alone, is inside your exam hall. But before then, you have every opportunity to do your work with others, so use that opportunity well. Number two reason is because your method of reading has issues. You're using the wrong method of reading. So now, one the way the brain works is that when you just keep piling in words into your head, it cannot remember unless those words are useful, unless those whatever you have read, you've made it useful. That is why when you apply any knowledge, anything that you have read, you can remember it better, because you can always remember that scenario, and once you have that scenario, you can remember everything better. So it is always better to read with learning aids. Many learning aids are like YouTube. You can also read with a human being, the person asking you questions. Then you can read with learning cards, like cards where you can write points of your notes or questions that would always remind you about the stuff that you have read. But three reason is because you have not been able to identify your strengths and weaknesses. And honestly, this, even though it bothers me that so many students still have this issue, many students still have this issue. Some students are so bad at maths, and when they fail, instead of them to come and meet the lecturer and say, "Ma, I'm so bad at maths, please can you teach me?" They're like, "Ma, I don't know why I'm always failing maths. I try my best." But you don't know it. What did you write in your script? Nothing. Useless something. So what magic were you expecting the lecturer to perform for you? So identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses. It's important that you know your strengths. It's important that you know those courses that you don't have to read so much before you know. For example, as a student, I my strengths were mathematics or logical courses, like technical courses like drawing, physics, mathematics. I didn't have to read so much to understand those courses. Just by even listening in class, I would understand everything that I was taught. I would just have to keep reminding myself. So for courses like that, you want to surround yourself with people who will need your help. And so you, when for example, then I used to teach people maths, I used to teach people technical courses like that. Whenever I teach them, I'm reading myself. I would not have read before teaching them, and they would be understanding what I was teaching, and it was just because it was my strength. So you need to keep people who are going to benefit from your strengths around you. Also, know your weaknesses. My weakness when I was a student was biology. Although that's one I didn't really find a way to strengthen my weakness, just because I thought that because it's my weakness, there's nothing I could do. But now I know that, as even though it was my weakness, there was something that I could do. My weakness was actually um reading. Biology was my weakness, and biology is bulky. However, I realized growing up that biology has always actually been an easy thing for me to understand. It was just my method of reading that always did not work for me. as soon as I became a lecturer, when I started to use learning aids like YouTube and then just going over my notes over and over again, I began to understand biology so well, and I began to become better at it. Okay, so yes, it's important that you know your weakness, because I already knew my weakness as a lecturer. It made me to focus a lot on getting information about it, and I didn't focus only on reading textbooks because my head would just keep aching me. I used Google, I used YouTube, I used learning aids, I found a way to make the knowledge useful, very, very useful. And it really helped me. Number four reason, which is very, very important, is that you are not resting. You don't rest. You read too much. Any small thing. Yeah, I must read. I must read. I must read. And nothing is entering your head. I know students like this who read a lot, who do not rest at all, but they still don't perform well in their exam. They still get B's or C's. You are already endowed to perform better. What you need to do is to take a chill pill, calm down, and rest. The brain, when it comes to understanding something, reading, the brain actually needs a lot of hours of rest. Your brain can only concentrate on reading, and this is only even for few people who love to read, for 7 hours. Seven. These are people who love to read. Now, students that don't even like reading, 2 hours they're gone. So learn to take breaks after you finish reading. I'm not saying rest before you work. Oh. God rested after he worked for 6 days. He rested on the seventh day. This should be the way you also work. Work when you see that you are tired, rest. Learn to rest. Your brain would not have energy to understand whatever you are reading if you do not rest. And you know, as I said before, you can, when you read with people, you know, I said before that you do everything alone. If you read with people, you can take turns in resting, or you know, find a way to push each other in reading, and also ensure that you are all resting. You may not even read with people who are doing your courses. You can read with people who are doing other courses, but then they will just be partners who are helping you, pushing you to read, and ensuring that you are resting and doing stuff like that. Number five reason is that you read too much. You read in quotes too much, because reading actually has to be that whatever you are reading, you're understanding it. But in your case, you are reading, you are not understanding what you're reading. You're just reading at the surface. You're just reading hours and hours. A good way to read. In fact, as a student, I used to do this very wrong method. If you're a student and you do this, you may need to stop, because it works for maybe 1% people, which is which don't even exist. This thing where students read and you're jotting everything down, you're jotting all your whole textbook back into your notes. You're like, I can remember everything. Is a lie. It is a big lie. If you are going to jot anything from your textbook into your jotter, make sure it is a summary of that note, and ensure that you are not you're not writing down a story that you cannot remember. Make sure these are specific points that would point you to the full answer. Do you understand what I'm saying? Specific points that will point you to the full answer, not writing back your whole note. This will take a whole lot of time. It will waste your time, and then you would be someone that people would be looking at you that you read a lot, but you would not understand anything. So whatever you're jotting, make sure it's just a point that leads you to your full answer. Do not pile so much knowledge in your head. I realized that what worked for me as I grew up more was actually focusing on points. Just instead of reading, jotting the whole note, I would just read a bulk, get the point for that bulk, and I kept using bulk points and points and points and points and points. Then I would now get questions from everything that I've read, start answering the questions, and then start to test myself. The more I'm able to answer, the more I'm confident that I know I have the knowledge of the course better. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful, everyone, because a lot of students keep thinking that um, they are dull. But here's the truth: you are there's no dull student. There's no, in fact, there is no course that should be so hard for you. Some things just require more work than others, and so don't ever think that you are dull. You've just been using the wrong method to read. You've just been using the wrong method to understand some things, and that's why you're not performing well. So just try this method and let's see if it works. Bye.